The year was 1978. October had settled over the quiet coastal town of Oakhaven like a familiar blanket. For Silas Blackwood, the rhythmic hum of the lighthouse generator was as constant as his own heartbeat. Every morning, just before dawn would stain the eastern sky with pale grey, Silas would descend the winding metal staircase, a steaming mug of black coffee in hand. He'd check the logbook, make a note of the previous night's visibility, and then stand at the base of the tower, gazing out at the restless slate-grey sea. Oakhaven was small, nestled between a thick pine forest and the rugged coastline. Its population barely touched 300 souls, most of them fishermen, craftsmen, or retirees who'd found peace in its quiet isolation. The air always carried the scent of salt and pine sap, a comforting, immutable presence. That morning, October 27th, was no different. The sky was a clear, crisp canvas, promising a perfect autumn day. The local radio station, crackling faintly through the static of Silas's old set, mentioned a weather advisory. A patch of heavy coastal fog was expected to roll in by late afternoon, a common enough occurrence this time of year. Nothing to worry about, the announcer chuckled. Just another day in Oakhaven. By midday, a faint, milky haze began to gather on the horizon, an ethereal vanguard. Silas watched it from his perch, a familiar sight. But as the hours wore on, something shifted. The fog didn't just roll in, it descended. It thickened with an alarming speed, swallowing the distant tree line first, then the fishing boats bobbing in the harbour, until even the closest houses along the shore became indistinct blurs. By dusk, Oakhaven was not merely foggy, it was entombed. Visibility dropped to mere feet. The usual coastal fog was damp, a gentle shroud. This was different. It felt heavy, dry, almost suffocating. A peculiar, muted silence fell over the town, as if the very air had absorbed all sound. Streetlights became haloed beacons, fighting a losing battle against the encroaching white. Residents, initially amused by the novelty, found themselves increasingly disoriented. Phone lines, usually reliable, began to sputter and die. Radio signals faded into static. The town became an island, not just geographically, but acoustically, visually. No one could see beyond their own doorstep, and soon, no one could hear beyond the thrumming in their own ears. The expected lift by morning never came. The fog stayed, and with it, a creeping, pervasive dread. 2 days later, the silence from Oakhaven became a clamour of concern in the nearest mainland town, Port Blossom. Relatives who hadn't heard from their loved ones, merchants awaiting deliveries, regional authorities, all shared the same unnerving experience. Every attempt to contact Oakhaven was met with dead air. The fog, according to satellite imagery and reports from the few brave pilots who dared to fly near the coast, had not only persisted, but had actually intensified, forming an impenetrable, opaque wall around the entire Oakhaven Peninsula. It was a weather anomaly, unlike anything recorded. On the third day, a small, heavily equipped search and rescue team was assembled. Seasoned woodsmen, former Coast Guard members, and a few determined local volunteers. They set out in a convoy of rugged vehicles, their headlights cutting pathetic swaths into the abyssal grey. The journey was slow, painstaking. The fog was disorienting, distorting sound, playing tricks on the eye. Trees loomed suddenly, phantom shapes materializing and dissolving in the milky gloom. GPS was unreliable. Compasses spun erratically, as if the very magnetic poles had shifted within the unnatural cloud. The air itself felt heavy, cold, and utterly still. An oppressive quiet hung over them, broken only by the crunch of tires on the unseen road and the hushed, anxious calls of the team members. Hours bled into one another, until finally they reached the familiar, weathered sign that marked the entrance to Oakhaven, or at least where it should have been. The sign was there, barely visible, but beyond it, only the relentless, suffocating white. Pushing deeper into the spectral town, the search party moved on foot, flashlights piercing the dense curtain of fog. Every step felt like an intrusion. The first building they encountered was the general store, its door slightly ajar. Inside, shelves were stocked. The register drawer was open, a few coins scattered on the counter. A partially eaten sandwich sat on a plate behind the counter, a cup of coffee still steaming faintly. It was as if the owner had simply stepped away for a moment that stretched into an eternity. They moved from house to house, the same chilling tableau repeating itself. Kitchen tables set for breakfast, uneaten bowls of cereal, newspapers folded open to the October 27th headlines. Children's toys lay scattered on living room floors, beds were unmade, clothes hung drying on lines in backyards that vanished into the white abyss. In the schoolhouse, chalkboards bore lessons halfway written. In the church, hymn books lay open on pews. Cars were parked in driveways, boats were tied securely at the dock. There were no signs of struggle, no forced entry, no overturned furniture. Nothing to suggest a hurried departure, let alone a violent one. It was as if life had simply paused, or more accurately, evaporated. The most unsettling detail, the absolute absence of any human presence. Not a single resident, not a dog, not a cat, not even a bird. The town was a perfect, pristine snapshot of an ordinary Friday morning, completely devoid of its inhabitants. And the fog remained a silent, unmoving sentinel over the ghost town. The initial search expanded into a full-scale investigation, though investigation felt like a misnomer when there was no crime scene, no bodies, no tangible evidence. The perimeter of the fog was meticulously mapped, a nearly perfect circle around the Oakhaven Peninsula. Attempts to penetrate it with advanced equipment yielded little. Radar diffused, thermal imaging showed only ambient temperature, sound waves simply died. For weeks, authorities maintained a watch, hoping for some sign, but nothing. As time stretched into months, then years, Oakhaven became a modern legend. Reports from those who ventured to the edge of the permanent fog bank, faint, distorted sounds carrying on the wind. Some claimed distant laughter, others faint music, or the indistinguishable murmur of voices just beyond hearing. But when approached, the sounds would vanish. Theories proliferated. Mass environmental anomaly, creating a localized vacuum, displacing every living thing. Mass hysteria, driving the population into the sea or forest, swallowed by the fog. Or, the more unsettling, an unknown force, an entity that had claimed the town, harvesting its inhabitants, leaving only the eerie, empty stage. A portal to another dimension, opening and closing in an instant. Or perhaps something far older, stirring to reclaim its own. Today, decades later, the fog still clings to the Oakhaven Peninsula. It has never lifted. The perimeter remains as defined and impenetrable as it was on that fateful October day. The lighthouse, Silas Blackwood's solitary beacon, its light long since extinguished, is just another forgotten relic, swallowed by the perpetual gloom. From a distance, the area appears as nothing more than a featureless expanse of white, a void on the map where a vibrant community once thrived. Brave adventurers and curious thrill-seekers occasionally venture close to the boundary, drawn by the irresistible pull of the unknown. They report the same unearthly stillness, the same faint phantom sounds that seem to echo from nowhere, leading them into the heart of an impossible silence. The government, after years of fruitless investigation, eventually declared Oakhaven a restricted zone, a permanent enigma. The homes, the shops, the schoolhouse, all remain perfectly preserved beneath their shroud, silent monuments to lives abruptly interrupted, to a community that simply ceased to be. The ultimate fate of Oakhaven's 300 souls remains one of the most profound and unsettling disappearances in recorded history. A town, buried beneath a fog that never lifted, its mystery as dense and impenetrable as the very cloud that claimed it. And to this day, no one has ever truly understood what happened in Oakhaven. No one.